basically what George created. It's the North Star.
You can let the slave catchers catch me if we're lying at this point. What we have here is a wet sneeze of Star Wars, and the symptoms include delusion, because what are we watching? Greetings and salutations. Today we're going to be talking about The Acolyte, which is the most recent misunderstood masterpiece of Disney Star Wars and under the guiding hand of Leslie Headland. The overall premise of the show takes place in the Renaissance era of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. The people are at peace and the Jedi merely maintain the stability of that, except now there's this dark unknown force that's haunting the Jedi and also hunting them. Now hearing that, sounds pretty simple, right? Even a little vague, but you can't possibly mess that up. They have completely and utterly porked this up in a way that no one understands how, but we're gonna talk about it. Now, I'm not gonna be doing an in-depth play-by-play. I'm simply just gonna be hitting my strong points and going from there. I should also probably point this out before the comments do it for me. I am a fan of George Lucas Star Wars. That is a very important distinction to be made nowadays. That being said, legends, book lore, whatever hardcore knowledge there is to know about Star Wars is irrelevant in this review. My knowledge is purely strong enough to drink through this, not enough to cry about it afterward. But I'm not an inherently cynical person. I can acknowledge the positives that can be found within the show, and maybe I could be wrong, but I'm probably not wrong.
And that tells me you're afraid of the truth, huh?
We didn't start off on a sand planet. A lot of rainforest though. Episode 5 is probably the least bad episode. The fight scenes are fine. Jackie was alright. I definitely liked her a lot more than Yord. And then she died, and he also died. So I guess that's a win. Chimere is just better pizza with better ingredients. Other than that, this show is stanky. How is it that we have progressed no kinds of where? We literally went in a circle that's just slightly lopsided. This is the level of writing that we're working with right now. Episode 1 through 2, Jedi are being hunted, and the culprit looks like this. So you would think she wouldn't be that hard to find, especially since she's going after high-profile people within the Jedi Order, has very distinct long hair, and she has a whole cornfield tattoo baked into the side of her forehead. Now, keep that in mind. Why they kept the same hairstyle for X amount of years is beyond me, but you could argue they're identical, just not when they're children.
One of these things is not like the other.
How are we supposed to believe that she is an elusive assassin if she can't even nail the basic principle of don't be seen?
Attack me.
How do we find a Jedi? You know what? I'm just gonna cause some mayhem because surely, surely someone has to stop me. Episode 3 through 5, we get some twin backstory and a mini massacre. We find out that May has always been a psychopath. The big baddie for the season is actually Razzle Bedazzled Kylo Ren, who's just looking for someone to match his little freak. I mean, cure his master mommy issues. I mean, an acolyte. Wow, how could I have foreseen this? The same guy who poses as their weapons master to kill Jedi gets mad that she uses the tools to kill Jedi. That is like a drug dealer selling me drugs, and then after I tender payment, he's like, listen, drugs are bad for you. You should get some help. I'll add that the no weapons rule holds no real principle to these two characters, especially since it's executed in the dumbest fashion and is forgotten about. Did we run out of kyber crystals? Are the Sith just on a budget? Did we also forget that Chimere himself has a lightsaber? And with episode 8 in consideration, it's supposed to tell us that May was just trying to bum off these lightsabers just so she can bleed the crystal. Why wouldn't she just grab one off of their dead corpses and just bleed the crystal then? We would have been had a lightsaber. If force choking is the rite of passage, okay, but why? Sorry, I was going off the tangent. My thing is, she has to do this awkward anime-esque starter pose before she engages in a fight with a Jedi so she can unlock her critical thinking, where she's strong enough to kill Master Indara, but when there's a Padawan, those are the ones we really gotta worry about. Padawans are strong enough to face up against the Sith. They haven't known to exist in centuries or even when they were born. These no-name Jedi Knights, sorry, they're gonna kick rocks while Sol is bench-warming in the background because he is almost nowhere to be seen in the fight scenes of episode 5. Episode 6, we have a major twinception moment because everyone is making poor decisions. Now in this episode, Osha is with Chimere, not killing him for some reason, and May is with Sol, also not killing him for some reason. How Sol was eluded by May is baffling to me because there's a big tattoo. Anyway, all the Jedi are gone, neck snapped. Done. Sol's plan following this is not one crafted by brilliance. He's instead going to fly off the grid in some unknown direction because he wasn't originally going to go to Brendok. That wasn't his plan, that was May's. And The whole idea behind it was to save Osha by telling the truth. Now, switching back to Osha, her initial thought isn't to kill this man who murdered all her friends or even go swimming across to the next shore over because there's a ship right there. No, she is gallivanting on this damn island and being recruited by means of eye candy. She is already considering Sith's got a nice ring to it. At least Anakin mulled it over before he decided to cast Mace Windu through a window. She then spends the next minute and 50 seconds hyperventilating from the sweat of her senpai's mask and ends the episode there. Episode 7, we find ourselves at episode 3 again with the backstory, but we get it fully fleshed out. It adds zero clarity to anything, so I'm not even gonna get into it. Episode 8, I have a migraine, and they have cameos. It's funny because the moment you scroll onto the episode, there's no thumbnail, there's no title, there's no description. It's basically just a mystery box of crap, and you just gotta be willing to open it. So they had Darth Plagueis haunting, stalking, sneaking around these corners like unwanted foreskin on this damn island because that's intimidating. This was the creator's way of connecting the storyline to Darth Plagueis and Palpatine. But it's all gonna make sense in season 2 though. Green Master knows that her Padawan's alive, and the fright in his eyes. This man looked like the equivalent of me running away from my mother whenever she had to do my hair. Chimera and Osha are a thing. I can read context clues. They're already having casual banter about who's gonna get to Saul first. You're gonna kill him, but I'm gonna save him. Why else would he come back just to take Osha? He literally could have just left the siblings there and fly back to a secret planet. In case you didn't know, it was an unknown planet. Now doing this creates the weird connotation that he killed Jecki because he was jealous. You're not thinking things through and we're making this happen. So Sol is murdered by Osha because Mom's dead and gets blamed for everything by the Jedi for damage control for a lie that stemmed from a very dumb reason to begin with. May still set the fire. She still lit the match. She still had the intention to kill. Okay, let's say you don't want to include the fact that the Sith are running around and this is going to become an even greater issue. Let's do that. Let's just pretend that's not a problem. Why not blame the person that's already in custody, who has already prior killed many of the Jedi Masters that were in the Order and has their memory wiped, so they have no clue on whether or not they did it or not? Is that a problem? And on top of that, she seems very agreeable. At the very least, we could still get information on the Sith and still have a person that's at fault for all the deaths of the Jedi. They went that route just to make it seem like the Jedi are just evil, that the showrunners wanted to push, and they still goofed that all the way up. That's all him. He committed suicide with no burn marks. So the man was choking himself. Holy freaking God. This review is gonna be a lot longer than I intended, but it's just, I'm going off script here. What are we doing? Me personally, as the audience, I have not seen anything that has warranted this to be true. If the Jedi are evil, why do we have weird characters alluding to it or just directly telling us because we're supposed to think that they're evil? If anything, it comes off as, well, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. What is with this crapping on the Jedi? To be fair, there's a valid argument to be found here, and the showrunners even have a character telling us what that valid argument is, but they're choosing not to do it. If you ever watched the Clone Wars series, I highly recommend it because it made this argument clear and even enhanced some of the principles that could be found in the prequels, never eroding another writer's work to do it. In some of the episodes throughout the series, you see Jedi constantly denying aid to certain planets because of the jurisdictions they fall in. So there might be a planet that's within the Sith bounds, or there might be one that's within the Jedi bounds or the Republic, and they had to choose which benefited them in the situation and where to interfere. But basically, the anti-Jedi sentiment is adopted through the thought of Jedi only seek to strengthen themselves, never to help other people. They're glorified, they're high and mighty. Sure, they're peacekeepers, but what's really going on in there? That and inviting them to their own conflicts, the Jedi can act as their own judge, jury, and executioner if they wanted to, and sometimes that can invite more trouble than you warranted. Mind you, we never actually see this interaction between the Jedi and other people. The Jedi are fundamentally good. This is not an arguable fact. This is just what it is. This is how it's gonna be. This is how they are. We have some strays. And Order 66 never hurt nobody. And only the Acolyte, in the time period of the Renaissance, which is supposed to be the golden age of the Jedi, the best, peak, strongest fighters, and we only have the freshest of excrement walking around in robes. Their reasoning comes down to Jedi are evil because they try to recruit my twin sister and I at a young, impressionable age and killed our coven to do so, so don't trust them. I can concur on the fact that Saul was not meant to interfere. You're telling me the man had no right to defend himself when they were going to kill the Jedi anyway. If anything, this whole secret plot line made it seem like this was just an accident. We could have ended this whole secret subplot thing of killing the parents and chalk it up to an apology and call it a day. But wasn't the Sith's plan at one point was to steal the Jedi registry for Force-sensitive kids, kill their parents in the process, kidnap those kids, and use them for their own personal gain? When did the Jedi ever become the equivalent to this? So I'm supposed to side-eye Qui-Gon Jinn because he gave Anakin a choice between being a slave or a Jedi. I don't know about you, but I know which one I'm choosing. It's like the creator hired a PA to watch the sequels and prequel trilogies for them, and only through fan edits, and walked away with the idea that Anakin was bad because he wasn't allowed to have attachments, while Kylo Ren was just a misunderstood teen with Krispy Kreme dreams. Grant, to give the show some credit, he comes off as less of an overzealous peacekeeper and more of the P. Diddy variety, because he's weirdly obsessed with these kids. There's no consistency nor substance to anything that they've actively built, which is also rewriting canon, which adds more questions that the production has shown time and time again. They are not prepared to answer it. Until season 2 though. So they crafted a child through the Force, much like Anakin, but they split the child into two. They have shown nothing that really sets them as the same person. They're not interested in the same things. They're constantly wearing black and white. I'm assuming that's supposed to be a yin-yang thing. We can only assume that there's one person that is strong enough to craft life through the Force. Is this man like a fairy godmother? Is he just providing wishes to whatever randos he comes across? Which is also the coven of witches that are not Night Sisters, because they're not evil enough to be the Sith, but also not good enough to be the Jedi. So we're just using gray Jedi notions without using gray Jedi notions. But I don't know, they're coming off a little Sithy to me. Chimera's over here headbutting lightsabers, which is very intriguing to see. Confusing to think about because it's made from a deflective material that can short circuit lightsabers for a short time and is impervious to all manners of the Force. How are we stopping the Force if it enhances the Force? Which, with a quick search on Wikipedia, you can see the purpose of the material and how it's used, which opens up a whole can of worms, because if this is a material that anyone has access to, why are we not mass producing it? And if it's a finite material and only certain people can have access to it, why are we not making it into armor? If I was Vader and I'm 200 years down the line and I'm reading scrolls about this material that can short circuit lightsabers, I would be like, why do I keep getting short-sticked by all these other people that have better material, but when I need something to make my life as a walking lung cancer patient better, they suddenly don't have anything for me? You guys brought Yoda into this. Sorry, the back of Yoda's head for this. This only just adds even more questions to the tomfoolery that has taken place in the entire series. Because unfortunately, things are not adding up. And things are not going to add up because they're continuing to pad out these episodes in order to make their way to season 2. Then there's a secret that looms over the entire series that is surrounded by the dumbest of reasons, and they try to gaslight you into thinking that it's plausible. I'm thinking that Sol and Torrid committed some egregious and heinous crimes, then lied about it. It has to be if you're taking a vow of silence and willingly kill yourself. Yeah, sorry, you're telling me that after this woman set off her inner Dementor and then proceeded to get her cheeks handed to her, now she was gonna let the kid go? All the signs throughout the episode pointed to, yeah, we don't frick with the Jedi. We need to kill them, take care of them in any means necessary before they expose that we feed our kids spice cream and brand them.
Let them have some spice creams.
Mama!
Spice cream, the equivalent of cocaine or psychedelics that people kill themselves over in the sci-fi universe. But cool Wookiee fight, right? One slight editorial. May never had any intentions of killing her sister.
To you can't stop me. Yes, I can. How? I'll kill you.
Or even burning down the place. She just, accidentally stumbled into setting the whole place on fire. She stood there for 30 seconds, watching fire do what fire does, and was surprised. But sure, Sol gets a slow and awkward chokehold by the end of this because he decided to defend a child. My thing is, why wouldn't you mention that there's a Sith running around to the Senate? I would think maybe they would give you a little bit more jurisdiction versus you saying, hey, yeah, one of our Jedi just short-circuited. I don't know, he was having a really bad day and just killed 8 Jedi. If anything, if I was the senator that was in the episode, I would have been like, we are not equipped to deal with that, so you go right ahead. Despite my political aligning, go for it, honey. Another point against the show is that the cinematography is agonizing to watch. A billion-dollar corporation that has all the tools, the funding, the support, the feedback that any fan filmmaker could ever dream to have at their disposal, and they keep choosing to make the same pea-colored mediocre content because infinite money glitch. We are in a vast galactic universe with acrobatic space wizards that are carrying around laser popsicles. Why are we using soap opera filming principles? The last thing you want to do in this franchise is create flat and uninteresting angles that feel claustrophobic. We have a front shot transitioning into another front shot. We have a weirdly generated landscape swooping into a front shot. Overall, the scenes in the series is dryly slapped together that it's almost comical because there's so many bad tonal shifts that take place that they don't let the scene breathe. One example being Sol is having the hardest day ever and is acting his little heart out. He just witnessed his Padawan and Jedi get cut down in one fell swoop and he's the only one surviving. And then it cuts to goofy furry creature shenanigans. And even in some of the episodes we just cut to credits. There's no cliffhangers, there's no high notes we're leaving on. There's nothing interesting to get you hyped up for the next episode. It's just a vague sequence and then we cut to credits. Giving credit where credit's due, 5 and 7 were probably the most visually stimulating episodes we've had throughout the series. By anyone's logic, if I'm sitting through a show and it's constantly giving me a dookie laid platter and the one time it decides to dress it up with some sprinkles, it does not undo the previous stink I have endured. To the point where I don't even think most people stick around for the end episode crawl, and because of that, they just got away with doing the most wildest thing I have ever seen in a Star Wars show. In case you were already disappointed by the episode, we have an R&B classic to completely eviscerate your immersion. You want to take a guess at what the song title is? I am tired. They just don't care. They will continue to spit on your face and take dollars of your time just for the consideration or the mere hope that you will see this franchise grow in a way that is back to be worthy among the greats. For those that are missing a clue, Dune, for some, is on the same level as Star Wars, if not better. Can you, by any stretch of the imagination, place a pop song in a world such as dense as that? I know Timothée Chalamet is a big fan of Kanye, but there's no way we're playing Can't Tell Me Nothing in the middle of religious genocide. This cannot be more indicative than when Mother says we have Star Wars at home. This production also looks cheap, like a whole bunch of cosplayers just happened to stumble across the idea of being a Jedi and put together something last minute. Who gave this man the exaggerated swagger haircut for better black characters? Why do these ladies have the same haircut as a Muppet? The lightsabers are also the most inconsistent thing that I've seen throughout the films or even just through series. Sometimes they're long, sometimes they're short, sometimes they're a little too thin. In this series, it's chunky and I'm just not a fan. To add salt to the wound, we have lame characters wielding them. The Force. It's as consistent as Spider-Man's danger sense. Why are we using it in just the goofiest of ways? You can push away 8 Jedis, just pick them up right off the ground, but we can't sense the murderous intent of somebody in the room, nor could anyone sense the collective deaths of several Jedi brutally dying in the same region and think, you know what, there probably might be a Sith running around. You also included Yoda, who had experienced the exact same thing when Anakin had killed all the younglings. And especially when Order 66 was being executed, why would he not feel it? No, sorry, we need a rat boy to figure that one out. And if it's this easy to break into a Jedi temple, I think we need to reconsider who we're recruiting. Are we just passing anyone that's able to get through Guess What's on My Galactic iPad? You couldn't hand somebody a Force-sensitive puzzle and let some Force-sensitive kids solve it, and that just proves, hey, they're one with the Force. What's even the point of testing me if you're just gonna take my blood sample and tell me my metachlorian count? Why do we have the only 2 Asian actors performing anime coordinated fight scenes? Also having a League of Jedi come to Brendok and then sense their way through the crime scene that took place oh so many years ago just seems redundant when we could have done this in the first place. Is Force blocking also a foreign concept that we just don't use in this series? You're telling me anybody can just get tossed. Why aren't we just doing it to everybody at this point? I guess the Siths are invulnerable to everything and conveniently can do memory wipe at a moment's notice, which begs the question, why didn't Palpatine ever do this at all? Osha also has Force foresight, but can't tell if it's her sister or her when she's killing Sol, but you didn't notice the dress wear or the lack of tattoo. Another added thing in the show is that they bend the rules of physics, because how is there fire in the vacuum of space? Stone and steel are apparently flammable to the point where a small fire can just break out into an all-out explosion and collapse an entire mine shaft. If this review will tell you anything, they do not care about anything as long as they are keeping the lights on in their theme parks. The characters that are dragging us through this entire show are loathsome, boring, and one note. The acting also isn't great in the show. Sol is understandably the only person that you can really feel the ideals and the pain that he's going through in the entire series. Osha has no direction, no foundation, no sense of morals or obligation anywhere. She just wistfully looks off into the distance and then hopes for a better life, then hops on to the next best thing after 2 seconds. Let's just stop playing right now. She was not looking at Jeki the same way she was looking at Chimera. She thinks the Jedi are ultimately good, but she somehow can't find any rebuttal as to why it might have been wrong for Chimera to kill her friends. It's like she couldn't remember why she trained with them for 10 plus years when abs come into the picture. Even if you just have problems with Sol, the man is evil and he kills people without hesitation. Osha wanted to be a Jedi the moment she saw somebody in a robe. But then she becomes a scrapper, a Met-Tech, on the barren edge of the galaxy because she couldn't pass the Jedi test due to trauma. Then she finds out her sister, who was presumed dead, is alive, which at this point in time was accused to be the murderer of an entire clan and set everything on fire. She has no curiosity or no real will to want to do anything about it or any relief, showing that she maybe cared about her sibling. The trauma was so bad, she didn't even seek vengeance against her own sister. So traumatized that even after witnessing a massacre, she is just fine cozying up with this villain while he's doing his gym routine. This clip right here does not look like a moment of spontaneous rage. It looked like the actress was trying to remember that she needed to hit her mark. Osha is only opting to befriend and train with a Jedi because she thinks now all Jedi are evil, but her sister can stay on the planet and take any kinds of consequence for her action. May is just the inverse with the same problems. One minute she's killing for the sake of vengeance, and the other she wants to turn herself in but run away from the authorities. The character isn't torn between two sides of the Force. She's not even being mind controlled or being tortured by the Master, and on top of that, she doesn't even seem blood raged by the fact that her family is dead. So you're just crazy. Can't argue with that. Yord was needless and not even worthy of a lightsaber stab. Again, Jeki should not have lasted as long as she did with that fight against Chimera. Cool to see, dumb to execute with no explanation as to why the power dynamics would be that way. Sol and the other Jedi that are depicted in the show come off as tired and too unskilled to engage in battle, unless there is a coordinated fight sequence that is planned out. That, and he has a glimmer of character, but his whole point is to be tortured by his mistake, which is unfortunate because you can tell the actor is trying to connect with the material. You can feel the try. It's a shame that the actor actually picked up English as he was working on the production and was the best one there with nothing to work with, because the dialogue is so bad that I just don't care. Chimera is something. He's definitely more intriguing than having to watch a man over the age of 30 go through tantrums. Then I also realized this is the same actor from The Good Place, and I can't unsee him as Darth Jar Jar Binks of the series.
See you in hell. You know what I just realized? I always say that when leaving a room, but right now, it's accurate. I will literally see all of you in hell.
Not if I see you first.
The man does what he's supposed to do. He stands the way he does to show his muscles off. He tilts his head in a creepily fashion because he's evil. And he's calm, cool, collected, and he's not bad to look at because Disney thinks we're all a bunch of clapping seals. I will say he's not the brightest tool in the shed, because if you wanted to use your powers unchecked and operate in secret with an acolyte, you could have done so. Your existence was threatened the moment you let your little psychopath go off killing high-profile Jedi. And in the process of that, also revealing your appearance to them, but you could have just stayed in the shadows. How any of this is going to make sense or even connect somewhat coherently to Darth Plagueis' timeline and Palpatine, no idea. I'm just convinced they're gonna keep unveiling Sith like it's rushing nesting dolls and see if they can get there on their own. To wrap this up in a nice little bow, the story is trash, the characters are bad, the whole show is boring to watch, and the acting does not get better. And it's not like the production can't serve the fans. They are choosing not to. Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith were both great productions, and they didn't even require that much. So it's not like the show can't be done, they're just doing it in the poorest way possible. But I do not think me disliking the show is the equivalent of 400 years of oppression and slavery.
400 years of taking the bullshit. The compartmentalism my ancestors had to encage.
Oh, Amandla, you interesting gal. At the end of the day, these people are just collecting a check. Same as the people that are talking about it online. But I'm not, so help me get there. What did you guys think of The Acolyte? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Comment down below along with your theories and inquiries, and I'll respond to them as soon as possible. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like for me, and if you want to see even more of my content, try subscribing. Click the notification bell. Do what you will. Links are down below because fun stuff happens there sometimes. But anyway, I hope you guys have a lovely day. I'm out of water. This is probably like my 5th cup, but I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye.